Hi, and welcome to another exciting night of the Pirate News, brought to you every Sunday by your wonderful people here in Massachusetts. You have myself with you, the one and only Malt, and our fearless leader, Captain Jamie.
Ahoy.
There's a lot that happened this week, with basically the entire world going to hell in a handbasket. Um,
So,
so,
in other words, a new week.
yeah. It's like, wow, 2020 is going to be the best year ever, except no.
It's not even halfway over.
Yeah.
2020 is preparing for its PhD thesis because the trouble is just piled higher and deeper.
Essentially, has the revolution begun, gentlemen?
Yeah, yeah. I would say that it has been ongoing since Occupy Wall Street. That there is absolutely a growing class consciousness in the working class, the middle class, and like the urban tech elite that the police are an occupying force, and no one is safe.
Absolutely no one. So what's going on with what really started off these protests? Specifically, someone standing or kneeling on his neck.
Jamie, would you like to?
Jamie?
Yes. So, in Minneapolis, George Floyd, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Apparently was trying to purchase something with a check, and which is completely legal. And the clerk thought he was passing a bad check, although my understanding is that wasn't true. And as a result, the police were called, and they handcuffed him. And from what I saw, they put him in a car, put him in a police car, and then took him out of the police car. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that, but nevertheless, he ended up, for whatever reason, even though he wasn't resisting them, they ended up putting him on the ground, and at least two of the cops kneeled on him, one of them kneeling on his neck, such that for about at least 8 minutes, such that he couldn't breathe.
So I think we need to name the perpetrators, like the murderer and the accomplices, which is officers Tothau J. Alexander Kyung and Thomas K. Lane, with Kyung holding Floyd's back, Lane holding his legs, and Thao looking on as he stood nearby. The dude who did it, Derek Chauvin, knew Floyd. They had worked together doing security for, I think, a local nightclub, and Derek Chauvin kneeled on Floyd's neck for 8.5 minutes with his hands in his pockets, like he's just waiting on the bus.
And now, from what I understand, the guy who was actually on top of him, they've charged him with third-degree murder.
Correct.
Yes, it's third degree. It absolutely should be first degree at the very least.
And so, what are the differences in the degrees? Because I know they try to nail somebody with second-degree murder, and sometimes that slips. Playing devil's advocate, did they possibly do third-degree murder just to make sure it sticks? Is it less of a sentence? I mean, what's the real difference?
I'm not entirely sure. I do know that having a personal relationship to the victim is one of the big issues.
Well, first degree is premeditated, if I recall correctly. So I guess the prosecutor, would my guess who the prosecutor thinks that it isn't premeditated. Although the fact, as you said, Malt, that they knew each other, we don't know. Maybe there's something else going on between them. But it's certainly not strong enough for. I mean, basically, the police officer executed George Floyd. George Floyd. Yeah. I mean, it was an execution, and it was video recording. by a 16-year-old young woman who did it bravely, I must say, to go and record that. There are other people around, and as far as I know, she was the only one who was recording it.
There was who was it that got charged? It was the last time this happened. The person who recorded the video got charged with murder.
Yeah, he's serving sentence in jail, if I recall correctly, and it looks like it was trumped up. So
yeah.
So,
sorry.
Go ahead. No, I was going to say so. So obviously, the huge protests all over the place. Some of them peaceful, some of them not. The one I think, in that location,
protest has been peaceful. Every protest has been peaceful. The violence comes entirely 100% from police escalation. The police response is the violent part. The protests are peaceful.
Well, I mean, there is building damages, but I've heard from some of these, some stories leading to where shop owners are like, "Let it burn. We can just rebuild it. Like this, things need to change." You know. And
yeah, there's it's an Indian restaurant in Minneapolis. They've got damaged by fire. They put up a fundraising event, but yeah, they have been like 100% behind the protesters. And the protesters in most cities, if there's an indication, if the store is boarded up and it's like spray painted minority owned, people have been avoiding those. They've been targeting places like Target, where the goods are insured by huge multinational corporations, for the most part.
Oh, we lost you there, Jamie.
Your mic's muted.
Well, that's weird. I said, or the police station.
Oh yes, the police station was burned. I know in San Jose, it seemed a lot calmer and more peaceful. I mean, they still had a couple people they were arresting, but the entire time they were just blaring, "This is an unlawful assembly." It looks like they're trying to kick down like actual constitutional rights in this whole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So constitutional rights really only apply right now to Trump's supporters. Like we have
guns.
Yeah, that too. So like we've definitely absolutely got a bifurcated system where we designate like citizen versus non-citizen, and there are a handful of categories, like most visibly like documented versus undocumented, white versus black, working class versus middle class, and we don't get rights.
I mean, they've been arresting reporters. CNN
They've been assaulting reporters. A reporter just lost her eye from a less lethal round. Less lethal.
Well, I mean, we've seen this stuff since the Battle of Seattle in 1999. Innocent bystanders are always going to get attacked by the police because it becomes a police riot at that point. I mean, I've seen video of people just calmly on their front porch watching a parade of police go through and I think Minneapolis, and they're ordered to get back in their house. I'm like, they're on their own property.
They shouted, "Light them up!"
And then they start shooting, pepper balls at them, and maybe even rubber bullets at them. Which you're not supposed to shoot rubber bullets at people. You're supposed to shoot at the ground where it ricochets off and loses some of its momentum. We had that during one of the Red Sox game afterwards. After there was a Red Sox game, and they literally shot rubber bullets at people and killed a woman.
There's I think the term rubber bullet is a misnomer. I until yesterday assumed that a rubber bullet is like solid rubber. It's not. It's a solid metal core with a rubber jacket around it.
Or so they also make ones with a rubber core and a metal jacket around it, and those things go in just as deeply too.
I mean, the ones I saw were practically the size of 40 millimeter grenade rounds. I mean, I was just kind of amazed at how huge those things are, and to get hit by it was just the damage it would do.
Well, they also have the beanbags too. The beanbags have the big shotguns, and those things they still will leave you with a nice well up bruise.
And we're in very short order. We're going to see the MRAD sonic weapons deployed. That's going to happen real soon.
Mm.
If it hasn't,
I think they actually had those in the San Jose going on because you heard the screeching in the background.
I have had to seriously curtail how much I expose myself to what's going on. Otherwise, I am going to lose my shit.
I mean, they're doing all sorts of things. I mean, what was that, Section 230? What's going on with that?
Yeah, so Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act covers, indemnifies platforms that host user-provided content such that if they have mechanisms in place where they can review them and it can be taken down because it goes, goes against decency standards, then they're indemnified. And when you think about it, it's like if I am the phone company and Malt calls you and you two arrange something that could be considered illegal,
like that 4 kilos.
Sorry.
Sorry, I was just going to say like the 4 kilos of cocaine for good times, as
Well,
an example.
I'm not judging, but
it got destroyed by Italian pigs. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I buried it in
okay.
the forest.
Next
I don't know
time,
what I
next
was
time.
thinking.
Next time.
But if that goes over the phone system, through my phone network, then I'm indemnified from the things the two of you do. And so likewise, if Facebook or Twitter, if they go and someone exhorts people, say, to shoot other people or does something illegal, sends child porn or whatever, as long as they have some method of identifying and taking that down, they're not held liable. But Trump recently had Twitter go and put up a warning on one of his tweets saying, hey, this doesn't abide by our terms and conditions, but Trump's important, and so we're just going to put up a warning. And also Trump was saying completely falsely that mail-in voting, which he has used, which numerous people in his administration have used, will lead to people voting illegally. And Twitter put up a little disclaimer down at the bottom saying, actually, that's not true. Here's a link to find out more information. And he objected to that. And so he did a...
executive order?
Yes, he did an executive order that claims that it will review these things, but really it's all air. There's nothing there that he can do. It's Congress's job to make laws. He can't make laws.
And plus, if this passes, Ben Shapiro is going to be held responsible for multiple mass killing incidences. So it's never going to happen.
Well, or Trump, for that matter. Trump could just get taken down.
Is Section 230 the same as common carrier status?
No, it's the only. My understanding is it's pretty much the only section of the Communications Decency Act that has survived constitutional muster. Most of the rest of it was removed as First Amendment. Sorry, you can't do that.
I mean, even on the flip side, with the judicial part of the way on the Justice Department even enforces things, it's like, well, if you don't have moderation on your site, then obviously you can't be held to blame in a historic sense, whereas nowadays as sites are partially monitoring or starting to fully monitor and have moderation people in it, they're held to more of account.
I'm going to say that for the most part, online communities have usually been fairly heavily moderated. Like Usenet has, you'll occasionally run into Usenet groups that the moderators stepped away and it was total anarchy, and then you got 4chan and D.
Yeah,
but like it's really only Facebook, Reddit, like the big sites that are so big that they cannot really employ professional moderators at scale that you run into like these kind of issues.
And you get a lot of like Reddit moderators that are just like volunteer, like, yeah, sure, I'll do it type deals. And then
And
they,
then you have Violent Acres. I wonder what happened to Violent Acres.
I mean, as I said, nothing much is going to go to this come of this because the Constitution is pretty clear in its First Amendment rights, and judges are just going to throw it out. But the problem is he's aiming it at Facebook. And Zuckerberg has gone on Fox News. We know the primary news source, well, when it's not OAN, for Trump, and basically said, "Oh, what Twitter did," Zuckerberg said, "what Twitter did was too far. We don't believe in interfering with what people say, with even putting commentary on what people say, doing counter speech," which is really kind of interesting because they have that whole section where they fact check various posts. So they are doing that. But, Zuckerberg wants to make sure that the Trump administration gives them millions of dollars to reach out to voters so they can make profits off of Trump, spreading propaganda.
I will speak this one point in favor of Mark Zuckerberg, who is a lizard-skinned son of a bitch who once paid me to spank him while he called me daddy. Is that they have announced that they are no longer allowing the micro-targeting of voters. If they follow through on that, good for them. If they don't, fuck them.
In 2016, they had people in his office helping them optimize their ads. I mean, they're going to do that again this year.
There was also a study, like an internal Facebook study, where they realized how badly a radicalization tool it was, and it got buried because it was inconvenient and it would have cost them money.
Right.
and
we saw it in Myanmar. We saw it in plenty of other countries. And it's here.
yeah.
And I mean, honestly, if this goes forward and Facebook gets broken up, I'm going to feel real conflicted about agreeing with something that Donald Trump did.
But he won't, because Zuckerberg will make sure that he buckles under. He wants to make sure WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook are all under one company, even though by rights they should be 3 different companies, if not broken up further.
It's real bad. I think if anyone out there is listening and is overwhelmed by despair, support Black people. Like, support bail funds, support Black Lives Matters groups, support the people in your community that are doing the work and have been doing the work, because they are there, and I promise you they're still doing the work. And this is your opportunity to be a hero.
That, and definitely don't give them any reason to like really pick you out. Just keep on fighting the good fight and doing what's right and doing this the right way as opposed to the wrong way. And you can do that by sharing this video, liking and subscribing.
And we'll put links in the description to at least several of those groups.
Yes, and definitely let people know what's going on.
Gandhi Mahal. That was the name of the restaurant that was supporting George Floyd protests. Gandhi Mahal. Okay, sorry.
No. That's great. We'll definitely get a link of that into the description as well. And with that, I want to say thank you, Malt, and thank you, Jamie, for joining us this evening. It's always great, and hopefully things will lighten up with this whole COVID craziness, because that's still happening too. So,
yep.
But we have not forgotten. So, thank you very much, guys.